The alien princess, Saralith, waits, alone in a glass hall, watching human ships arrive and leave. She remembers how one human man, Captain Ethan Cross, used to look at her with respect and warmth, but now every time she approaches, he avoids her. He changes paths, he shortens conversations. He never meets her eyes. Sarahith is confused and hurt. She is not used to rejection. Alien royalty is feared, not ignored. She begins to wonder if she insulted him or if humans secretly hate her kind. Flashbacks show their past cooperation. Ethan saving her convoy during a pirate attack. Late night strategy talks. Quiet moments of trust between two very different species. The tension builds as Sarith finally confronts him in a hangar. Why are you avoiding me? Her voice is calm, but her eyes shine with pain. Ethan freezes. For a moment he almost speaks, then he walks away again. Audience is left wondering, did he betray her? Is there a political reason? Or is the truth something far more dangerous? Welcome to my channel, Starlight Sci-Fi Story. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. The space station Orlean Gate drifted quietly between two stars. Its silver walls reflected distant light, cold and endless. Ships arrived and left every hour, but inside the station there was a strange silence, a silence that felt heavy. Princess Saralith of the Valari Empire stood alone near the wide glass window of the main hall. Her tall figure was still, her long silver blue hair falling down her back like flowing light. Outside the window, a human cruiser slowly moved away from that station. She watched it until it vanished. Her hands slowly closed into fists. He left again. She whispered to herself. This was the third time today. Captain Ethan Cross, the human officer assigned to joint operations, had once again avoided her. He had seen her approach. She was sure of it, yet he turned away, changed direction, and disappeared into the restricted corridors meant only for human crews. Saralith did not understand. At first she thought it was coincidence. Humans were busy. Humans were strange. That was what her advisors always said, but this was no coincidence. Every time she entered a room, Ethan found a reason to leave. Every message she sent received short replies, cold and official. The warmth that once existed between them was gone, like a star that had suddenly gone dark. Her chest tightened. Among her people she was known as calm and wise, a future ruler who never let emotions control her. Yet now something inside her ached in a way she had never felt before. She closed her eyes and memories rose. Without permission, months ago the station had not felt this way. Back then alarms screamed through the halls as pirate ships surrounded the Valari convoy. Saralith remembered standing on the bridge, gripping the rail, watching enemy fire tear through space. Their shields were failing. That was when the human fleet arrived. Ethan Cross had been the first to answer the call. His voice came through the speakers, steady and clear. This is Captain Cross of the United Earth Fleet, he said. Princess Saralith, stay close to our formation. We'll handle the rest. And they did. Human ships moved with sharp precision. Their weapons were fast, brutal, and exact. The pirates never stood a chance. Later, when the danger was over, Ethan met her face to face for the first time. He did not bow low like others did. He did not stare in fear or awe. He simply nodded and said, "Glad you're safe. Your Highness, that moment stayed with her. After that they spoke often not as ruler and soldier, but as equals forced to work together. They discussed trade, routes, border threats, even small things like human food and Valari music. Sometimes late at night they stood by this very window watching the stars. There had been silence then too, but it was comfortable. Now that silence hurt. Sarith opened her eyes. Across the hall she saw Ethan. Again, he stood near a group of human officers giving quiet orders. His dark uniform was neat, his posture straight. As always, for a moment their eyes met. Just a moment, something flashed across his face, pain, fear, regret. Then he turned away. Saralith felt something break inside her. Without thinking she walked toward him. Her steps were slow but firm. The sound of her boots echoed across the floor. The human officers noticed her first. Their voices lowered. Some stepped aside. Ethan stiffened. He knew she was there. She stopped a few steps behind him. Captain Cross, she said softly. He did not turn. Captain, she repeated. Slowly Ethan turned to face her. His expression was controlled, cold and distant. It was not the face she remembered. Yes, princess, he asked, formal and sharp. Her heart clenched at the tone. May I speak with you, she asked. His jaw tightened. I'm busy. You are always busy, she replied quietly. The officers around them looked away, uncomfortable. Ethan glanced at them, then back at her. Another time, he said. He turned to leave. That was when she reached out and gently caught his sleeve. The contact was light, almost nothing. Yet Ethan froze. Why? Sarahith asked, her voice trembling despite her effort. Are you avoiding me? The words hung in the air. Ethan slowly pulled his arm free. He did not meet her eyes. I am not, he said. She let out a shaky breath. You are. Silence stretched between them. People nearby pretended not to listen, but everyone felt the tension. A Valari princess and a human captain standing in quiet conflict was not something the station saw every day. Ethan finally looked at her. For a moment the mask cracked. There was something deep in his eyes, something heavy, something old, but then it was gone. You should return to your quarters, princess, he said. This station isn't safe right now. Her voice dropped to a whisper. You think I do not know danger? That stopped him. She stepped closer. Tell me what I did wrong. Ethan swallowed. You did nothing, he said quickly. Then why? She asked. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. I can't, he said. And with that he walked past her and disappeared into the human sector. Sarahith stood there, unmoving, her vision blurred. She did not cry, not yet, but her eyes burned. That night Sarahith did not sleep. She sat alone in her dim quarters, the soft glow of alien lights casting long shadows on the walls. Her advisors had tried to speak with her earlier, but she sent them away. This was not a matter of politics. This was personal. She replayed every conversation she had ever had with Ethan, every smile, every serious look, every quiet moment. Nothing made sense unless a thought crept into her mind. What if humans truly hated her people? The Valari Empire had once been powerful, feared. They had made choices in ancient wars, choices that shaped the galaxy, choices humans might not have forgiven. Her hands trembled slightly. No, she whispered. He would have said something, but doubt had already taken root. Meanwhile, in the human command sector, Ethan Cross stood alone in a dark briefing room. A holographic display floated before him, filled with red warning symbols and classified files. One file glowed brighter than the rest. Very prior conflict records. Ethan stared at it, his fists clenched. Voice echoed in his memory, his commanding officer, cold and firm. Do not get close to her, the voice had said. She is not responsible for the past, but the past still matters. If she learns the truth, it could destroy everything. Ethan shut off the display. He leaned forward, resting his hands on the table. I know, he muttered. He remembered Earth's history, the burned cities, the abandoned colonies, the cries for help that never came. The Valori Empire had been powerful then. They had chosen to look away. Ethan squeezed his eyes shut. He avoided Saralith, not because he hated her, but because every time he looked at her, he felt the weight of a truth that could never be spoken, and worse, because part of him still cared. The next day, rumors began to spread. Alien diplomats whispered in quiet halls. Human officers spoke in guarded tones. Something was wrong. Sareth noticed the change. Doors closed more quickly. Conversation stopped when she entered a room. She felt watched, not with fear but with caution. She made a decision. If Ethan would not speak, she would find answers herself. Using her authority, she accessed diplomatic records, trade logs, military archives. Most files were normal. Then she found it, a request filed by Captain Ethan Cross. Transfer request immediate. Reason: personal conflict of interest. Her breath caught. He was leaving, running away. Her chest tightened painfully. Before she could read further, a system warning appeared. Access deed, human classification. Her hands dropped to her sides. So there were secrets, dangerous ones. That evening, Sarah summoned Ethan to a private meeting chamber. This time he could not refuse. The room was small and quiet. No guards, no advisors, just two chairs and a low table between them. Ethan entered slowly. You wanted to see me, he said. Yes, she replied. Sit. He hesitated, then obeyed. For a moment neither spoke. Then Saralith looked directly into his eyes. I will ask you one last time, she said softly. Why are you avoiding me? Ethan's hands trembled slightly. He looked away. If you knew what my people remember, he said quietly, you would never come near me again. Her breath caught. What do you mean? She asked. He stood abruptly. I've said too much, he muttered. Sarahith rose as well. Ethan, he stopped at the door but did not turn. Her voice cracked. Please. Slowly he looked back. For the first time she saw pain fully unhidden on his face. This galaxy is built on forgotten graves, he said, and some truth should stay buried. Her eyes filled with tears. The door closed and Sarah stood alone, knowing that whatever the truth was, it was far worse than she had imagined. Princess Sarith did not move for a long time after the door closed. The room felt empty now too. Quiet. The soft lights on the walls no longer felt warm. They felt cold, like distant stars that gave light but no comfort. Her eyes burned. She slowly sat back down, her hands resting on the table where Ethan had been only moments ago. His words echoed again and again in her mind. If you knew what my people remember, what do humans remember? She whispered. She had studied history all her life. Wars, alliances broken, treaties. The Valori Empire kept records going back thousands of years. Yet Ethan had spoken as if there was a wound so deep it still bled, and worse, as if she Was part of it. That night Sarith could no longer stay still. She rose from her seat and activated the room's console. Her fingers moved quickly, calling up sealed archives, diplomatic records, ancient war reports, emergency transmissions from long forgotten systems. At first nothing seemed unusual. Then she noticed the gaps, entire years missing, entire regions erased from public records, mentions of a young species labeled only as non-essential ally. Her heart began to pound. She refined the search, species human, status pre-expansion era. The screen flickered, a warning appeared, VLI high council restriction. Her breath caught. Why would Valeri records hide information about humans? With shaking hands, she overrode the restriction. Using her royal authority, the system hesitated, then opened a hidden file. What she saw made her chest tighten. Images of ruined colonies, burning worlds, emergency signals repeating the same desperate message. This is Earth. Colony 7, we are under attack. Shields failing, we request immediate aid. Timestamp showed the message had been received and ignored. Saralith's hands trembled. She scrolled further. Valeri. Fleet movements appeared on the screen. Ships close enough to help, strong enough to change the outcome, but the final order was clear: stand down, do not engage, strategic priority elsewhere. Her breath became shallow. No, she whispered. She remembered her teachers speaking of that era, a time when the Valeri Empire chose caution over risk, survival over compassion. She had been taught it was necessary. She had never been shown the cost. At the same time, deep in the human command sector, alarms suddenly erupted. Red lights flashed. Warning sirens echoed through metal halls. Ethan Cross snapped to attention as a tactical display lit up before him. Report, he said sharply. A young officer looked up, pale. Unknown signal detected beyond the outer perimeter. Ancient text signature matches the classified records. Ethan's blood ran cold. So it's finally waking up, he said. The room fell silent. Everyone there knew the name, even if they never spoke it aloud. An enemy older than alliances, older than trust. The reason humans had never forgotten. Sarith felt the station tremble beneath her feet. The lights flickered. An announcement echoed through the halls. All personnel remain calm. This is a security alert. Her eyes snapped up. She knew that tone. Danger was no longer a memory. It was here. She left her quarters without hesitation, moving quickly through the corridors. Guards stepped aside as she passed, fear-filled. The station like poison. She reached the command observation deck, just as massive holograms filled the space. A shape appeared beyond the station, dark, massive, silent, a machine construct, larger than any ship she had ever seen. Ancient. Awake gasps filled the room. That can't be, one alien commander whispered. Saralith felt cold fear crawl up her spine. Then she saw Ethan. He stood at the center of the command floor, issuing orders with sharp clarity. Human ships were already moving into formation. Their movements were fast, precise. Ready, too ready. Sarith walked toward him. Ethan, she said. He turned for a moment. Everything else faded. This is what you were afraid of, she said. Quietly, yes, he replied. She swallowed. Then tell me the truth now. The station shook again. Ethan looked at the growing threat on the screen, then back at her, and finally he nodded. They moved to a quieter corner of the deck. surrounded by flickering light and distant alarms. Ethan spoke slowly. Long ago before humans were strong, before we had fleets like this, we were attacked, he said. Not by pirates, not by empires, but by that thing. He gestured to the massive construct. It erased worlds, he continued. We fought, we begged for help. Saralith lowered her head. We answered some calls, she said weakly. But not the ones that mattered, Ethan replied. His voice did not rise. That hurt more. When Earth colonies burned, the Valari fleet was near, he said. Strong enough to stop it, but your empire chose to protect itself. Sarahith felt tears sting her eyes. We were afraid, she whispered. The council believed survival required distance. Ethan nodded. I know. He looked back at the enemy. So we survived alone, he continued. We hid. We learned. We built weapons not to rule the galaxy, but to make sure no one could ever abandon us again. Sarith finally understood. That is why you avoid me, she said softly. Ethan's jaw tightened. Because every time I see you, he said, I see a past that almost killed us and a future I don't know if I can trust. She stepped closer. But you still saved me, she said. Yes, he answered. Because whatever our past, you are not the one who made those choices. A deep, low sound echoed through space. Enemy was moving. Alien fleets opened fire. Brilliant beams struck the ancient machine. They did nothing. The construct shifted, unfolding like a living nightmare. Energy rippled across its surface. Single blast tore through an alien cruiser as if it were paper. Panic spread. Shields failed. Ships broke. Formation. Saralith watched in horror as centuries old Velari technology collapsed in seconds. Human fleet, Ethan commanded. Advance. Saralith turned sharply. You can't face that alone. Ethan's eyes hardened. We've been preparing for this moment our entire history, he said. Human ships moved forward, not in panic, not in fear, in perfect unity. They formed layered formations, overlapping shields and weapon grids. New weapons powered up, humming with controlled energy. Enemy fired again. This time the human shields held. Gasps echoed across the command deck. Ethan raised his hand. Fire, he said. Human weapons struck with terrifying precision. Not random blasts, targeted strikes. Weak points. The ancient machine recoiled for the first time. It showed damage. Sarahith felt her breath leave her lungs. You learned how to fight it, she whispered. Ethan nodded. At a terrible cost. The battle raged. Human ships took hits but did not break. Damaged vessels were immediately covered by others. No one was left behind. Saralith watched, stunned. This was not just strength. This was memory turned into discipline. Suddenly alarms flared again. Enemy core charging. An officer shouted. Ethan's eyes widened. If that fires, he said, the station won't survive. Sarahith stepped forward. Then use us, she said. Ethan turned. What? The Valari fleet, she said firmly. We failed you once, we will not fail again. Without waiting for approval, she activated her command channel. All Valari ships, she ordered, her voice strong and clear. Form defensive. Ring around the human fleet. Shield them. There was a moment of hesitation. Then Valari ships moved. They took positions. They took hits. They held. The enemy's core blast struck but weakened. Human weapons fired again. Ancient machine shattered. Silence fell across space. Slowly debris drifted away like dark snow. The threat was Gone. Afterward the station was quiet. Again, but it was a different kind of quiet. Sarith stood beside Ethan at the observation window. Stars filled the view. She turned to him. I am sorry, she said, not as a princess but as someone who knows her people were wrong. Ethan studied her for a long moment. I can't change the past, he said, but today you stood with us. She nodded. We owe you more than words. Ethan finally allowed a small, tired smile. Humanity doesn't ask for pity, he said, only honesty. She met his eyes. Then let us begin again, she said. Outside, human and Velari ships stood together, not because of treaties but because trust had been earned, and humanity, once abandoned and forgotten, had become the shield that saved the stars. And